What's going on? Welcome back to another brand new episode of Skywalking Through the League. I am your host, Bill Sheehy, and I'm joined as always by my Jedi partner in crime, father of Cinna, boyfriend of Jess, my man, William Trey Mitchell. Where is he? Is he there? Where is he?
You didn't even say her name right. It's Sienna. Not Cinna.
Hey, come here. Bring her on.
You scared her away.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. How you doing, man? It's been a long time.
Pretty good. Yeah.
This is the official mascot of Skywalking Through the League, and how do Sienna?
Like from Lost Stars.
Oh,
That's what she was named after.
I've called her Sienna. Okay, Sienna. Hi, yeah. Sienna. Hi.
Sienna, say hi.
Say hello.
Hi.
There she is. Oh, she's beautiful. Beautiful. There he is.
Moved. She even used the mouse pad already.
Heck yeah.
She's growing up so good quickly.
Listen,
but yeah, stuff's good.
She has added more to the Star Wars discussion than most of Twitter has today. So I appreciate her time and for coming on the pod. I'm excited to be back with you. And we've got another illustrious guest. Did I say guest or guest? Anyway, Regan.
Hi.
How are you, my friend?
How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be back. Anything exciting going on over in the city?
Well, they found human remains again.
Okay.
Down the block from my house.
Changed.
So just the usual.
Okay. Perfect. This city, baby. Wonderful. Well, we are excited to be back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the premiere episodes of Andor. There's a lot to discuss.
You cannot pronounce names today.
It's difficult, man. It's so hard. It's so hard. Cassian Andor. But before, as the show goes on, I will get my pronunciation down. But before we get into Andor, I want to talk about a couple things that we had going on the past few weeks. Regan was actually very, very involved with a special charity event where she introduced all the main guests called Podathon. It was put on by our good friends Pete Fletzer, Scotty Jarrow, and Nick Milkey. And they raised over $16,000 for Make-A-Wish, which is such an incredible achievement. And they did it before the event was over. They smashed their goal way in advance. And it's just an incredible event. And of course, it was a smashing success because of everybody behind the scenes, because of Regan. She did a phenomenal job in her introductions. Our good friend Alden Diaz interviewing my favorite Star Wars director ever, Rian Johnson, giving a career-defining interview at what is that dude's like 24. Like that's the thing with Alden. That dude is.
Everyone loves Alden.
I love Alden.
He's amazing.
He's the man.
Everyone loves Alden.
Truly, everyone. Not one person.
He's the most popular guy on Twitter by a nautical mile.
That's okay. I want to take a vote right now, and everybody in the chat, if you want to, you can raise your hand. Raise your hand if Alden Diaz is the best man on Twitter. Okay, unanimous vote. Vote.
It was between him and Connor.
That's true. That's true. So you heard it here first.
Connor is the best man on Twitter with one eye.
Why are we dunking on Connor all the time? I don't like that. But I love Connor. I can say his name right. I'll say his name right without getting it wrong. It's Shakiti. See? Said it the first time. But Regan, talk a little bit about your intros. What went into that? And what do you what makes you proud about them and the event in general?
Well, I was kind of given an outline of the guests and just some of the things that they did, and Pete's direction to me was just Regan it up.
That's so broad. That's so broad. Regan it up. What does that?
So yeah, I did. I did a little bit of scripting to try it because I felt like some of them needed or called for I don't know, just a little more than purely saying, especially if it was people that I knew and I was familiar with their podcast, it deserved a lot more personalization. And it took me 10 hours total, like over 3 days of just getting it all together and recording it and re-recording it, because I didn't like, I'm pretty fanatical about the way that things turn out. But yeah, I was very proud of them, and it was exciting for me to just to get to do it, and to get to, even though like Ryan will never see it himself, just like to get to announce Ryan was amazing and really cool. And I hope, and he maybe saw my Ryan Johnson phone, because like, that was the whole reason I did that. But no, it was really great. And and I won the raffle, and I got a very expensive, insane Palpatine statue. And no, it was amazing, and we raised so much money, and it was coming in all day, like really steadily.
That's what was insane to me, is like I was helping, behind the scenes stuff, updating money and moderating comments and stuff like that. And like, there were times where like I would like put a number in the chat, like, hey, look what we did this. And then like within like 30 seconds, not even by the time I went to write the comment and the time I went to check it again, we had gotten an additional like $100. Do you want it kept coming all day.
Well, also, I think we have to acknowledge too that a lot of that, even though the guests were great and it kept people interested, we had some, like, I didn't realize the extent to which the like people had donated awesome stuff to raffle off. Like, I did not realize it until like really the end of the broadcast. And I think like, you could see in the chat too that people were like really excited about the like the drawings and stuff that were announced. And I don't get like the people that donated, like, I don't know if you got thanked enough, but that so much of that total like is thanks to what you did. So
it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and in the spirit of giving, we were able to also shout out something that's I'm very, very passionate about, the flood relief in Eastern Kentucky. About a month ago, there were devastating floods in where my family is from, that just absolutely devastated the area. It's not going to be the same for a while, and so if you want to give more to that, we have a link on the pinned tweet on Skywalking Through the League at SkywalkingTL that also will lead you to resources where you can help people in need in Eastern Kentucky. And this is really, really important because when the flooding first happened, it was very, very easy to say, okay, people, it's in everybody's mind, it's in the public conscious, but a month and a half later, it's not in people's minds anymore. But I will do whatever I can to keep it in people's minds, because these people need help. My people need help, and we can help them. So in that spirit, go to Skywalking TL. If you can give. I love you. I love your hair. I love your face. Everything. If you give, and if you don't give, that's fine too. I love your hair too. If you don't give. But all around, just a wonderful, wonderful event. If you haven't checked out any of the interviews from our wonderful friends that get it throughout the day, especially from Pink Milk. Look at Larry. Look at him. And then Chase. We can't see what he's sent, but it's beautiful. I love Chase. And the man himself, Connor Cicchiti. Mwah. Italian intensifies. It was all around a wonderful event, and I'm glad that people came together for a wonderful, wonderful cause. And speaking of people coming together for a wonderful, wonderful cause, the Rebellion, Andor. We got our first 3 episodes yesterday. For the brand new Disney Plus series about the beginnings of everybody's favorite character from Rogue One, Cassian Andor. See, said it right that time.
You still didn't say it right.
Did I not say it right? What is it?
Like,
what is
you
it?
added like D-O-H-R, like you said Andor.
I'm gonna
door,
do just
like
the build.
door. It's like a door. You open a door. You open an Andor.
Cassian Andor. There. That's what I'm gonna do.
We're adding a G to
Andor.
it now.
Cassian Andor. There. That's what we're doing.
Rust.
But It'll come off throughout it.
Everyone drink when Bill mispronounces Cassian's last name.
Listen, I'm gonna do it anyway, so you might as well too. So I want to talk a little bit about the premiere, what we thought, what we liked, what we didn't like. But I want to start with this. I think that for Star Wars to remain relevant, it has to evolve. It has to change. And I just kind of want to see where you guys stand on if this is an evolution of Star Wars. Does this feel not right's not the right word, but does this feel like a good direction for Star Wars to go into? Do you feel like this is a new way to tell a Star Wars story? Regan, what do you think?
Yes, I do. I think that my biggest excitement with this show was that they were going to really take a healthy amount of time to tell it, which is really important because the subject matter is serious enough that I don't think you just can't really be breezy about it.
Mhm.
And I kind of also feel like this is the kind of show that the people who want to commit to a story like this are totally going to commit. It might be alienating to a lot of people, and I think we've seen evidence that it already is. But you know, one of my biggest issues, and I discussed this with Trey on his show the other night, is that a lot of the Star Wars we've seen, and I've loved it, was still Star Wars that was very commodified art, which is to say that everything kind of existed to sell toys and products. And, you know, and even though this show, as all of the streaming shows, exists to advertise and sell the streaming service, and there are action figures that go with it, you never get the sense that this is trying to just sell you kids products. You never get the sense that they're pulling punches because Star Wars is for kids and kids might be watching. They're telling a very grown-up story. I am hesitant to use the word adult because everyone on the internet has misused the idea of adult themes in Star Wars this week.
Yeah, I think you're right. Keep going.
Yeah, it's a very grown-up story. It's a very timely and relevant story. And you know, Star Wars, I think, was always about the triumph of good over evil, but also kind of like the triumph over fascism. And what I think Andor is kind of a really more a realistic and relatable look at what that actually is, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that we can ever do is make people think that evil is something that is easy to recognize, that it will wear a cloak and have a scary face and shoot lightning from its fingertips. Evil is full of middle managers who are, you know, who are complicit in the worst things that people do. The Empire could not have existed without greedy, selfish people. Like Palpatine could never have done it alone. He needed people.
Did you get that quote from somewhere? That's really good. Evil is filled with middle managers. I love that. I love it. Keep going. Sorry.
No, I think that's we should give it to Trey because he hasn't had a chance to talk yet with us this whole time.
Trey, do you think evil is made in middle managers?
I have good bosses at my job, so I'm not going to comment on that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of just going back to the overall thoughts on Andor. Some of the people who have commented in this chat already got to go to the premiere of Andor. So their reactions were some of the first reactions that I heard. And one, I was just so excited to see some of my friends be able to attend that event. I thought it was really awesome. I'm not someone who was jealous on Twitter tweeting about their jealousy of it like others. But yeah, I love this show. Like, I think it's phenomenal so far. I don't. Are they? They're not releasing every week. Isn't going to be 3 episodes, right?
No.
Just one. Okay. So yeah, we got 3 episodes of this, which is really good because I think if we just had gotten 1, it would have been a different experience because I think these 3 episodes are sort of one story. I haven't seen episode 4, obviously. I think some people have, but yeah, so far, I mean, the beginning of this first episode felt like Blade Runner to me. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Blade Runner, especially 2049, and it was really cool. And the production design of the show was amazing. I think some of my issues with the recent Star Wars shows have just been I felt like they were kind of cheap, and obviously I know they're not cheap. They're like multi-million dollars. I think the budget of Kenobi was like $90 million, but this felt more cinematic to me, and I think that's what I like in Star Wars, is when Star Wars feels more cinematic, feels like a bigger scale. That's not to trash any of the other things that we've gotten recently, because I don't think like Kenobi could have been made. I think it could have been a movie, but I just think with COVID, like the way that it happened is how it happened. I would have preferred it to be a movie, but that's besides the point. But Andor, story's really good. I'm really excited to see where it goes. The acting is great. Tony Gilroy, everything he's doing with the show is amazing. Diego Luna is great. Bix is a really cool character. Yep. I like her a lot. Yeah, I think this is phenomenal. It feels very fresh. You mentioned the start, like Star Wars has to evolve. I don't know if Star Wars has to evolve. I think it more has to expand, like elongate.
Good call.
What it can be, not like change.
Star Wars has to elongate. Exactly. Yeah.
Star Wars is Mr. Fantastic.
That's right.
But, no, this was great. It felt very, very fresh, very new. Like I said, very cinematic. So I think those are sort of my overall thoughts before we dive more into it.
Okay. And Noah in the comments right now.
It's pretty late over there in Norway.
Preox Morlana corporate zone. Morlana corporate zone. I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Either way, I think Trey. I know I made fun, like I joked, like did a dick joke with elongate, but like
that's what that meant.
That's what that meant. I don't know if you caught that, but yeah. I think when Andor ends after 2 seasons, I think what its legacy will be is that it took Star Wars, like we've said all the time that like, oh, it takes it in a different direction, but like I think this actually shows that you can take Star Wars in a totally different way. I grown up does feel a little bit better of a word to describe it than adult, because like everyone said adult. It's grown up's just a more fun way to say it, I think, because like they're doing things that I never thought that we'd get in Star Wars, like because like the first scene is in a brothel, like, and they don't even like try to hide it. They're just like they're having sex in Star Wars, and and they're having fun.
I think more than adult, this is just genre like specific. Like it knows exactly the type of story it wants to tell, and it wants to tell a spy espionage story, like Jason Bourne. Tony Gilroy did Jason Bourne. So like I think if anything, that word adult, I don't think is used correctly with this, because Star Wars ultimately, I think the more you know about Star Wars, the more you know that Star Wars needs to be accessible for children, because they're the next generation and they're the ones that are going to be making Star Wars movies coming up. So you always have to, like, people talk about all the time, should there be an R-rated Darth Vader movie? No. Like if you were to go ask George Lucas if they should make an R-rated Darth Vader movie, he would laugh at you, in my opinion. So this is still like an accessible show to people who, you know, I wouldn't say like 5-year-olds should watch this, but I think when you're a little bit older, like 8, 9, 10, I think the show is good. But I think this is more of a genre-specific espionage show, and that I like. Like I like when Star Wars bends its genres, because we get A New Hope, and it's like a space western, space opera sort of thing, and Rogue One is a lot of the same feelings as Andor, and then you have like Solo, which is more of a western. And I like when Star Wars takes a genre specifically and puts that genre within Star Wars, because then we get really cool things like Cassian walking in the rain into a brothel and it feeling like he's Blade Runner, and then we have our main villain of this, I forget his name, but he's saying like enhance, and it feels just like Blade Runner 2049 when Ryan Gosling's character is like saying the same thing, and I don't know, it's cool.
That's because I think I went into this and like, you know, I like Rogue One. I don't think it's like, I think people
somehow it's the most divisive movie in Star Wars.
I like it,
well,
but like
not the most.
I don't think it, because like even with The Last Jedi, like
between all of our
people
friends,
know how they
say it is.
People like, I don't see a lot of people saying that Rogue One is like the worst thing that they've ever seen. I think Rogue One is good. I just
might say it.
I don't think it's like to the heights that other people take it. And if you take it there, I totally understand. I'm with you. I'm not gonna shit on it, but like at the same time, like I was not like when I first heard there was an Andor series, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, I'll watch it. It's Star Wars, but like I was so blown away by these first 3 episodes. Like I know people are gonna mute me for saying this, but it was a slow burn. But like I think when it like at the end of episode 3, where you find all these characters, heroes, antagonists, whatever you want to call them, I'm interested to where it goes now. Like, okay, Cassian is with Skarsgård or whatever. What's the guy? What's his first name? I want to call him Bill.
Stellan, but I can't think of what his name is in the show.
Stellan Skarsgård. Skarsgård. Okay, got
He's Bill Skarsgård's like uncle, I think, though.
He's literally Bill in Mamma Mia.
That's true.
How can you not like?
That's like
it's Bill and Harry. Famous line from Mamma Mia too.
That's a famous line from Mamma Mia too. I'm going to quote you on that first of all. But I like I said, I think it's the elongation evolution is important, and like I think it does a really good job of setting the tone like in the first 8 minutes, because like you get everything that show is going to be. I think because I kind of think it's a thesis to what the series is going to be, because like it's a little bit gritty, it's a little darker. Like Cassian just like headshots a cop, and it's just like, oh, this is different. But I like the vibe, I like the feel that they're going for. And I'm curious so far. We talked a little bit before we started recording about, we might struggle with like characters' names. But that because it's like it's just new. But are there any standout characters to you
Bix.
For you guys so far? Trey, what do you think? Who's your Bix?
Bix is very cool. Mm-hmm. She just seems cool. Mm-hmm. I'm interested like what her story is, because she sort of seems like the character that's in communication with Stellan Skarsgård's character.
Okay. Time out, Trey. Theron. Dude, come on, man! Like I'm just trying to have a good time.
I don't know if you said his name right. I mean,
he's taking another shot.
Lord have mercy.
Maybe I said it. Maybe I pronounced it wrong, so he'd have to take another shot. So it's Theron, right? Theron. That's what I said. What is it?
Theron.
It's the same thing.
I heard that.
I'm gonna take a drink just because I said it wrong. Apparently,
Luthen Rael.
Mm-hmm.
Rael. That's Stellan Skarsgård's character.
Right. I got you. Ray, who are the standout characters to you so far?
I liked Bix a lot because I have to cop to the fact that she was very authentic to being a girlfriend who's hiding some shit. And not well, and like who's just not really doing a good job of trying to like come off as the things that she's doing are not shady, because I don't know, I think we've all been there, or I have, and I'm a terrible person. But I think she's fantastic, and there is just so much emotion going on in her expressions that you kind of have such an understanding and a foreshadowing of things that are going to come with the character. But I thought Tim, even though I said on Twitter, was the Timmest of Tims. That was a great and set, and I don't want to give anything away, but it was a great arc. Because it was one of those characters where it's very like the way that you feel about him is immediately really complex, because you want to punch him, but he's a truly decent person. And I think like our not quote unquote, obviously not our big bad, but at least right now, the antagonist of the show, Cyril Karn, who people have compared to Ben Shapiro. I think I personally feel like I think that people are missing the point of his character. I feel like he's going to have a turn, but I think he's also really important to showcase that, again, to kind of elaborate on what I said earlier. The Empire was never, nor was the First Order, if you read the books, just made on a big scary guy with magic powers. It was made with people who were spineless. It was made with people who had very blind ambition and accepted being promised the world in exchange for doing atrocious things.
And I think like the his whole story, like, and I think you're right that a turn is coming. I think the whole thing with him and how you can kind of describe the Empire at this time was that interaction he had with his commanding officer at the beginning, where he's like, "Nope, we're gonna make it look heroic, but not too heroic." And I think that scene, I think, does something that Star Wars has like not really done before. Like, kind of shows the true bureaucracy of the Empire, which I think it, like you said, there's the cogs as an employee of a local government myself. The cogs of government have many moving parts and different people, different personalities, and I think that. Hold on, this is making me laugh. This is my father. What are we talking about? We're talking about Captain Kirk, Gandalf the Grey, and Cassian Andor, he's probably not even watched the show yet. That's the thing. I don't know why he's here. You can call him Mr. Dr. Professor Rick. He prefers that, actually.
Hello, Mr. Dr. Professor Rick.
There you go. Hey, Dad, love you. But I think, shit. Hold on, something moved by my window.
Is it Rick?
I hope not. But what I love about Andor so far is that it feels like a galaxy far, far away, but it also feels like kind of more like ground level. It doesn't feel like the Jedi have any part of this. It just feels like normal people. It's just people, kind of like at the end of Episode 9. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else I want to talk about.
I thought the way that they handled the flashbacks were like incredible.
Me too.
Do we think Bix is a character that like Cassian knew on his homeworld? I don't think so, but I'm not. I'm not.
Know.
It seems like they have history. I don't know when. So
but in some of the promotional materials that I read, unless I'm completely insane and I'm remembering this incorrectly, they said he was in love with her since he was a child. They said that in the promotional materials, so I'm assuming so.
Okay. I also really liked that when they were. Noah's going to be pissed. I don't remember Cassian's homeworld's name. I think it started with an F, right?
Yeah. No, no, it started with K.
Carrix. Or
no.
Noah, Noah, pull it up.
Noah's our fact checker, but I liked how they weren't, and I saw this on Twitter, so it's not an original thought, but that they weren't like translating everything that they said.
Right.
You kind of just like get the gist of, just like from the performances, the things that they were saying.
Well, I think the whole point of that too was that human horror is human horror, and it doesn't need to be translated. Like
I think that this is Canary. Once again, Canary. I can't pronounce anything.
Canary.
I'm sorry.
Annie, hi, my love. I love you.
I don't know her, but I do. What I like about the flashbacks is that it feels so ingrained to like I feel Diego Luna's like his hands all over that. Like that feels like something that like I don't think he would have done it unless they had something like that in it. Because like I think that there is a lot of Diego Luna in this character, and I think that this particular flashback and the way they like weave and go and turn and bring it into like specific points in the story, and then they little by little show you exactly what happened. I think is great, and I'm really, really interested to see more of his dynamic with Aunt Petunia. I don't know what her real name is.
It's Fiona Shaw, I think, is the actress, and
Aunt Petunia. Exactly.
She was amazing. She was a absolute powerhouse in that whole episode.
I totally agree.
Marva.
Is that her name?
Yeah, Maarva, Marva.
I got you. So I'm kind of like I don't. This is kind of a spoiler review without it being like I don't like the reviews that like take everything, like break down everything in the episode. They
Well, I
give you
also
a
think because they
timeline.
released so much off the top, I think we have to be a little extra careful, because I
Mhm.
think this is one where probably less people have caught up on it quickly
Yeah.
than they normally would. So
Mhm.
Everyone who's watching this has seen the show. Like,
Yeah,
we can
that's
talk
true.
about whatever we
Well,
want.
that's so. What are the standout moments to you for you guys so far? Like, what are the parts that work the most so far that you're like, okay, yep, this is it. I'm totally in. I'm invested. I want to see more of this. What are the moments so far? And you know, going off that, what are the most what moments are you excited to see potentially?
well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I will say this, and this is going to be a controversial opinion. Those 3 episodes did not have one moment, even though I know Scotty like wept for the final scene, and the final scene was really intense. Like,
Mhm.
it didn't have one moment that like particularly stood out to me, and I think that is a credit to the storytelling that they were doing in the first 3 episodes, because whereas I think Star Wars sometimes suffers from the need to have like these chunked up little like forever memeable, forever shareable like amazing cinematic moments, this is telling a story, and I think this story is being told in minute in the fine details. Like, everything is very much in the fine print with this. It is in these like very quiet interactions with people. It was, I don't know, it was also mind-blowing to hear the word shit in a Star Wars for the first time.
Well, like, was it like, because like I feel like you know, there have been shit equivalents in Star Wars
There've been
before.
shit equivalents, but they were
so, like,
always
it's
like
just like
very, very sanitized, you know,
Mhm.
and it like it made you feel like not pandered to, which was really nice. And it was a shit that was absolutely appropriate for the scene, you know, and like I think that I my favorite thing about it is that it is weaving a tapestry that is so intricate, and it is getting you invested in every single thread. And even like the point, I don't want to, I can't really say without giving too much away,
give it
but
away.
there's,
Give it
well,
away.
the
It's fine.
point at which you know, Cassian is holding Cyril at blaster point, you know, and Cyril is shaking and sweating, and you can truly see for the first moment, like, we see a side of Cassian, you know, that we didn't see previously, because in Rogue One he's a little bit hardened, but like his blood is icy cold in that moment, and Cyril is shaking and he's weak. And I think that that was another kind of important tell, not just for like the villains in the Empire, but kind of the villains that we deal with in life. These men who have assumed a position of power where somehow they've ended up controlling the lives and potentially the well-being of a lot of people. When it comes down to brass tacks, when the bullet's in their face, they're cowards. And I think it's it's allegorical, and it's relevant and important.
And you know, going off like, you know, what I really like, and like this is something I'm thinking about right now. When we are first introduced to Cassian in Rogue One, he is that hardened killer. We see him. Where we're introduced to him here, very similar scene where when he first gets the very important Death Star information on the rings of Carvani or wherever the hell he is. But what makes me so impressed with Diego Luna as an actor, like it's a younger version of Diego, it's a younger version of Cassian, in that little, like, he doesn't want to kill him at this point. Like, he did not want to kill that cop at the beginning. And like there was a little hesitation where you're like, oh, I don't know if he's going to do it, but he ultimately does do it. I think that shows so much of where Cassian is at that point too. Like, he's angry. He wants to stop the Empire, but like there's just something in there that's like, I need to stop. I can't. I don't know if I can kill him, but he ultimately does. But to me, that's kind of a, once again, it's the first 8 minutes of this show are so important to where I think we're the trajectory of what's going to happen.
I also think that that set a tone to not, you know, in the same way that like characters end up having plot armor and you can kind of like be sure that they're going to be okay. It set a tone that you can't, I don't think that we can have any expectations for how characters are going to behave in this. And it's no longer even like the complicated protagonists in Star Wars were always complicated to a lesser degree, but you know, like he killed the cop like right off the bat. So I think we're seeing somebody with a lot more depth than any characters that we've seen written for Star Wars yet.
Trey, what's been your standout moment so far, or what the standout moment of the first 3 episodes?
The editing is really good. I do video editing, and
and you're really good at it. I just want to point that out. You're really, really fucking good at it, and I like your edit of Satellite is wonderful.
Check out my YouTube channel. But just like the editing, like the way that it's cut between current Cassian and older Cassian. And then specifically the finale, the final few minutes of episode 3, where we get like these cuts back and forth between Cassian's adoptive mom, Marva, taking him away from his home in a way that I feel like warrants some discussion, because I don't feel like he really had a say in that. I feel like she just kind of kidnaps him. Didn't really ask him anything. Just picked him up, put him on her ship, and we're off. And then, you know, in current times, Cassian is leaving with I have to like look up all these characters' names. Luthen Rael, you know, Stellan Skarsgård's character. They're also leaving this planet, and like he's sitting in the back seat looking at the front, and it's just a very similar way. And I just thought that editing was done really well. It really built with the music, was swallowing. It was just like it was amazing. I think the editing of the show has been really good. You know, because we've seen Rogue One, we know what Cassian's intentions were when he killed at the beginning of that movie. He was doing it for the rebellion, but we don't really know what his intentions are right now, besides to find his sister. So I think here we see Cassian in a much more selfish manner, because he's acting in his own interests, and in Rogue One, he's like acting in the interest of the rebellion, which you can still say is like sort of selfish, because he's doing it as a way of revenge, I think, in that movie, and kind of until he meets Jyn. But the character introductions in this are all really good. I'm very fascinated by all of them. We haven't even gotten to like Mon Mothma yet, which I was a little bit disappointed in, just because I think she's going to be the standout character of this show. I'm really interested in all the stuff on Coruscant with the Senate. I don't need Palpatine or anything in this, but like I'm really interested in just the dynamics that she's going to be playing with, and reading like books like Lost Stars, where that the first third of that takes place on Coruscant, and then, you know, like what's the Rogue One prequel book?
Catalyst.
Catalyst. Yeah. I mean, so much of that was set on Coruscant after Revenge of the Sith, before A New Hope. Just sort of the building of the Empire and that, and the power dynamics and the selfishness between the Imperial officers and stuff. And I'm curious. I'm like really curious to see how her and some of the other characters like sort of play sort of build the rebellion from a legal standpoint. I know that might sound lame, but I think that's going to be really cool.
I think so too. And you know, another thing I really, really like about this is like just the idea that like you're getting really interesting moral questions like in Star Wars. Like,
well, no one's particularly good.
Yeah, like what Marva did was like she kidnapped a kid. Like but like she did it for what she thought was right, and I think that's going to be exactly what the show is about. People doing what they think is right. You know, we've already set up with Ben Shapiro light. We've already been I think everybody in this show is going to be doing what they think is right, and I think they're going to do it. I think at the end they're probably going to all reach the same conclusion. Empire bad, but I'm really, really interested to see how they do it and what they do with the kind of like the moral gray line area, or like, you know, the gray Jedi, like our good friend Jared. So
He's the Dark Jedi, man.
no, he's the Gray Jedi. Everyone knows that. It's don't look that up. Jared the Gray Jedi. Moving on to, you know, I am a overwhelmingly positive guy. I like to see the good in everything, but there's always negative in something. Is there something overwhelmingly negative that's you want to talk about? Is there anything that you're like, that feels a little weird? What do you guys think is not just isn't gelling? Reagan, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's actually kind of tough because I think these episodes I got through them without my usual Star Wars that happens every time I watch a Star Wars show. You know, like again, it didn't really suffer from the like let's have a long series of like fetch quests. It didn't have you know, it didn't, it wasn't hinting like ham-fistedly at anything. I would say, if anything, it's a little unrelentingly gray and grim, but it's supposed to be. I know, don't hate me for this, Trey, but I did kind of think like the whole standing in the rain thing was a little bit kind of corny and done, even if it probably was a callback to like Blade Runner. I was like, we've seen that. That's it. Like, we've seen it a million times. I mean, it worked for what it was. You know, I don't know. There wasn't really anything. I even felt like the way that like in the brothel, kind of the way that they worked in the girls kind of seamlessly made you feel like you got like it was very seamless from like the club girls that we saw in like Attack of the Clones. Like it still had that feeling to it. You know, I don't know. It really like it was really good. I can't say that I honestly had a standout terribly negative moment. It didn't really drag. It moved along. I was invested the entire time. I found like Tim just kind of an incredibly annoying character. And I will even say that even though I think his arc was really important, like I wonder if by the end of the series we'll even remember him past like kind of setting up an emotional, like, you know, like he's kind of maybe the person that gets kind of fridged for Bix, maybe. I don't know.
This is going to sound like a dumb question, but like, have they ever just done like casual sex in Star Wars? Like, because that might be his contribution to like
it's hinted at, but it's never, you know, like we assume that Lando has casual sex all the time,
but like to like show up, like it's basically like it's not like full on, but like that scene it's a booty call. Like
I didn't think it was a booty call. I thought, because like I got the dynamic between them, I thought is like he's clearly down bad for her, and she showed
up at like real late.
Yeah, but she was like stringing him along a lot, and I kind of thought like she just didn't share his feelings, but needed him. I don't know.
I think is probably the most like. Is really kind of real for like a lot of relationships. It's just like it's a
like even something about his physicality and like the way that he held his shoulders was real to being that guy in that dynamic. You know, it was weird. It was
she was like, really weird. Are you busy? And he was like, no, I'm totally free. I'm just like, I mean,
shows up at his door late and says, "Are you busy?" It's the Star Wars equivalent of "You up?" But like you're just at the door, like he just that's it. You up. If I had to point to one thing that I was like I'm not super negative about it at all. I like I said, the ending blew me away. I think it eventually led to a really, really good, you know, crescendo at the end of episode 3. But like there's a lot of it. It feels like there's a lot of downtime. And like, I know that I am not against downtime. I am very pro downtime in my personal life. But like when you're telling a story, it parts of it felt slow. And like I said, I'm not totally against it, but like the kind of the mixture of what everybody else has said, you know, the gray, the dark, and then like it kind of moves slow. It kind of does like, for parts of it, it does kind of feel bogged down a little bit, and I don't know if that's fair.
I think sort of the slow, quote unquote, slow nature of it. You like this show kind of just drops you into people's lives. And I like that because you get just conversations between people that don't necessarily advance the plot in like huge ways, but it makes you add it it adds depth to the characters, and it makes you like, or I guess it makes you understand them more. But going back to the overall question of like what were things we didn't like, I wish that these 3 episodes just were cut into one and didn't have credits in between each other. Yeah, I hate when we do that. Like I hate how the Siege of Mandalore, like afterwards they didn't just cut it into one movie, because then I gotta like, I gotta press next episode and then I get the title and it disrupts the flow. So I would have liked if this was all cut into one, because like we're all viewing it at the same time. Unless you're my girlfriend Jess, who only watched the first one so far.
She'll get there. She'll get there.
She will. Yeah. It's like me with Miss Marvel. I will eventually finish it.
Dude, it's so good.
I know. Yeah, I will get to it. I need to finish Better Call Saul. Then I will watch Miss Marvel. But and then I think sort of just the nature of people online to see something that they like and their first response is, oh, this is great. I wish all of these other things were this great. I like Andor. Kenobi sucked. Like I wish Kenobi was this good. And like, okay, I mean, Star Wars. I wish all Star Wars movies were as good as The Last Jedi to me and Empire Strikes Back, but they're not to me. Okay. So they're like, am I gonna bash Revenge of the Sith for not being that good? I love Revenge of the Sith. It's amazing in its own way. I think if you want to criticize other Star Wars things, you can criticize certain aspects of it. Like I think the nature of which this show was filmed in, where it was like shot more on location and used some less of the volume, I really like that, because to me, certain aspects of Kenobi felt very small. Like I felt I could feel the size of the set in that show. And I don't feel that in this, because they are spending a ton of money to shoot on location and to do things. And when I say shoot on location, obviously they're not in Star Wars. They're shooting on like,
no, they're in Star Wars.
But it's really nice to be out of the desert. It is,
and it's nice. And it's nice to like look at something and be like, that's like when we get the casting and flashbacks, it's obvious that that's a place. That's a tangible place that you could go to. And I really like that. I love when Star Wars does that. It's hard to do that because Star Wars is like a galaxy far, far away. So not everything is tangible. But when it is, it's really cool. And I feel like it adds depth because it makes these characters feel like they're real people like us who are just living somewhere, versus like, I mean, I don't know why, but when I think of Kenobi, I think of the scene of him going back home from work on that shuttle, and just how, in my opinion, I could just tell how much that was shot in the volume. And the volume's a tool. It's always how you utilize this tool. The Batman used the volume a lot, and a lot of people, if they hadn't seen behind the scenes of the Batman, they would not know that the Batman, all of the car chase scenes were in the volume. The sunset scene with Batman and Catwoman was shot on the volume, and it looks great. But when shows like the Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi, I wasn't there on set, so I don't know everything that was done, but I could tell a lot of it was shot in the volume, and it just kind of took away from it for a little bit for me, because I love the story of the shows, but particularly Kenobi, but their production design, I felt like there was a little bit to be desired.
Well, also, like, I have to say, one of the worst things that they shouldn't have given, that is like an industry secret, they shouldn't have given us too much insight into, because once you've seen any behind the scenes looks at people shooting in the volume, you can't not see it. Like, it completely kills the illusion every single time.
Except for the Batman to me, though. Like, the way that movie did it, I still can't tell really. Like, I kind of can, but yeah, I feel you.
Well, is that because was Batman like the first big screen movie that did it? Isn't like everything else we've seen the volume on also like has been?
It was Batman then Thor, I think.
Right. So I think possibly like
very different movie.
But I think that like just seeing it on a massive screen, probably like your brain isn't in the same place. But when you're watching it on a TV, on a laptop, I feel like I can always see it. And you're right, it does make it feel less grand, and that's what Star Wars always had.
Dune was shot on the volume, just like the difference in quality. Like that movie was shot for $160 million. Certain other Thor movies that just came out this year were shot for $250, and it's like it's just there's a difference. You can tell the difference.
there obviously is a difference, but like when there are these universally praised movies, when you have the Batman, when you have parts of the Mandalorian, are just a lot of it is on the volume that people love. To use it as like a crutch, like, oh, it uses the volume, so therefore it's bad. I think there's no nuance in that, and I like.
But it's when you can tell that they're using the volume. That's the thing,
right? And there are obviously it's a fairly new technology that they are learning about, and so like, I think what the best part that it does is that it gives the actors the ability to like actually, react. A lot of the problems with the prequels were that it was just a blue screen or green screen. So like in terms of the acting, which once again, I'm a child of the prequels. I love it, but like it's a game changer in regards to that, I think.
But don't you think in 2003 they said the same thing was about green screen?
Okay,
that like
fair
that
enough.
was a revolutionary technology. And in 20 years, when we look back on Kenobi, we're gonna be like, wow, that's so obvious. So it's like the infancy of the volume, and they use so much of it. So I don't know, because I love that show. Like I love the story. Mm-hmm. I love it. There's things when I'm watching, I'm like, I can tell that this is in a room with just like LED screens. So I'm not trying to put down Kenobi, because that's my gripe with the reaction to Andor, is when people are putting down everything. I'm just saying the thing that I liked about this show a lot is that it was shot on location. And I know that COVID has affected a lot of things. It's hard to say like whether shows like Kenobi would have been filmed differently if we weren't in a pandemic, but I like how this has been filmed so far.
I do too. And in a lot of ways, Star Wars discourse is a lot like poetry. It ends up rhyming. 20 years apart, it's all the same. People are still complaining about the same things. So that's a really good point. So transitioning a little bit into the end of the conversation, let's talk a little bit about where we expect the story to go. And what we're the most excited to see. So Trey, start with what you're the most excited to see, and where do you think the story goes from here?
There's been some stuff I've seen in the trailers between Luthen Rael and Mon Mothma, and I'm really interested to see their dynamics, because Rael seems like a kind of guy who is interested. Like seems like he's part of the infancy of the rebellion. Like he's he's recruiting Cassian to be more than just himself. Like he can sell him this box or whatever, and they can just make a deal, or he can come with him to somewhere else. So I'm interested in like the sort of formation of the rebellion thing, because like everyone that's watching this podcast, we live on one planet, right? Imagine 1,000 other planets against like all not communicating with each other, but they have an idea that they want to sort of rise up against this other power. Sort of my favorite thing, like my favorite Star Wars show is Star Wars Rebels. And then something that's really cool about that is these splinter cells sort of learning about each other and unifying. And Rebels takes place even further. Like I think this takes place 5 years before Rogue One. Rebels, I think, takes place a little bit before this, or maybe the same time. So we have these planets, like the guy said there's fermentation, like people are fermenting. And that's sort of the idea that I really like about the show, is that there are pockets in the galaxy that want to do something different. They don't like this government. They want to change. And how they connect to each other and sort of the larger unification of that with Mon Mothma and characters like that. I'm really interested in that, because how rebellions are born is really cool to me. My favorite book is Lost Stars, and that is a lot of it kind of in the first third. Star Wars Rebels is really interesting with that. Rogue One is interesting with that. So just sort of the formation of the rebellion and how these different people want to do that, because like if Mon Mothma's like, okay, we should do this politically, but Saw Gerrera is like, we need to like blow people up. Like how do you intervene? What's the middle ground between that? And I like that. I like that. Those politics, like that's the word I used before. The politics of rebellion are really interesting to me.
Regan, what do you think?
Yeah, to kind of echo what Trey said, even though Bad Batch was not my favorite Star Wars thing by quite a bit. One thing that I did like about it is that you really saw the the nascent fascism of the Empire, setting up checkpoints and controlling the money and all of that stuff. And I think that like I think I'm very interested for this show to really go into depth, and I think it will. Um, like at what, like not just the formation of the rebellion, but the reason for the rebellion. Like what exists beyond just the oppression and the control that we've known about since the movies. Like what was it like truly on the ground? What was it like, not just for, Star Wars has had a sort of tendency to just kind of show the people who were always at the fringes of things, always like in the most poverty, subsisting off scraps. But because there is a reality of what the Empire was for the people just like you and me, who weren't necessarily under the boot of it, but we're still existing in it. And I think I'm interested for this show to show us the rebellion happening amongst people. I'm definitely interested in the backstory of Mon Mothma, because I think she's always been a fascinating character that has a tendency, especially prior to the sequel trilogy, prior to the books that came out around the sequel trilogy, she was always reduced to just many boffins. And I think to see her as this incredibly elegant, and also, like, God bless Star Wars for just deciding that all of the women in power would be just dripping all the time.
They're always dripping. Can't stop dripping.
But just to see her, kind of like hobnobbing with probably the elite that are benefiting tremendously from everything that the Empire is doing, but all the machinations behind the scenes. But I think that, like, this show, in its promotional materials said, like, it is very political. It is very relevant. It is meant to mirror a lot of things that are going on right now. And I think I hope that they show us, the viewer. I want to see the mirror of the regular person, where we are right now, as we have watched things like this happening in our own country, just like, the beginning echoes of these same things happening in our own country. And we've seen them in our world over and over again. Who are you? Just the regular person, the middle class person, the person who is eating and who's doing fine, but is watching everything going around you. I think the whole point of this show, and I think we will see this a lot with Cyril Karn, is who do you decide to be when you are finally confronted with the truth of the world in which you exist? And that's what I'm really interested to see.
I love it. I think what I'm most interested to see, I'm kind of interested to see how all these different factions come together, because, like, there's a lot of different people coming together. You have Stellan Skarsgård. Did I say it? Played himself.
You were very, very close.
It's Stellan. What did I say? Stellan
Stellan Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. I really have not been drinking. I promise I haven't been drinking. It's just I'm a little rusty. But Stellan Skarsgård. There you go.
Cassian Andor.
Cassian Andor. I'm interested to see. We've kind of, in different movies, Solo, Rogue One, Rebels, even Bad Batch, we've seen the beginnings, like inklings of, like, okay, there's some interconnected connectivity here. I'm interested to see how, like, the beginning of that happens, because it feels like there's a lot of different factions, a lot of different personalities. Obviously by the time Rebels comes along, Saw is a pariah in the Rebel Alliance, so, like, I'm interested to see how they show that, because I think that they're going to show Saul do some just horrific shit. Like, I think that and Forrest Whitaker is going to
Saul probably does something that like hurts the Empire, but also kills a bunch of his allies.
I think so too. Like that feels like, okay, yeah, their interests might align somewhere, but at what cost? So like I think showing that cost in this show and kind of showing who Saw is a little more and what he's become. Like the Saw that we see at Rogue One is a completely different Saw than we've seen in the Clone Wars, and so like this is kind of like it's kind of in the middle of where we would see him between that time and Rogue One. So I think that they're going to do a lot with Saw. I think they're going to do a lot with Mon Mothma. I think that they're going to do a lot with Skarsgård. And there are obviously characters that aren't in Rogue One that are in this show. So like, are they going to be able to explain it and say, okay, well, they were part of the rebellion. It's a big galaxy and they were doing something out over there as part of the Rebel Alliance. So I think that's the most interesting part to me, is seeing how this all comes together. And at what point is K2SO coming, man? Like but like, do they like, what if like the last episode or like one of the last episodes is like, I need, Stellan is like, Cassian Andor, I need you to go. I need you to go get K2SO at this Imperial camp. And I also need you to solve this impossible math problem. That's a mix of Rogue One and Good Will Hunting. So, but that's what I'm most excited for. Any final thoughts on the premiere of Andor before we wrap it up, y'all?
I had no expectations for this series. Like I'm kind of with you, Bill, in that I loved Rogue One, but like I could have taken or left this character, and I thought this would be the one that I was just like least excited about, and I am very convinced it is going to be the best thing that Star Wars has done for streaming, if not for like Disney, period. I am not looking forward to the discourse that comes out of it at all, just because I think I'm exhausted of it to begin with. But I hope that the lesson that this show has made it very clear that they are trying to teach is not lost by the people who just want to buy robots out of it, because at the end of the day, even George Lucas was trying to impart a lesson on people, and I don't know if we've absorbed it really well over time, but I think they are telling this, they're giving us a blueprint for something very overtly. And I think that now more than ever, and this series will end just about this time the midterm elections are happening. Now more than ever is when we need to absorb it.
Truly. Absolutely. Trey, final thoughts from you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I think this was a really good beginning to the show. I like the first 3 episodes a lot, particularly episode 3. I feel like stuff started to happen more in episode 3. I think this is going to be probably my favorite Disney Plus Star Wars show. I have liked everything. I haven't loved everything. Today is the 1-year anniversary of what I would say my favorite Disney Plus show is, which is Star Wars Visions. I think Visions is absolutely
incredible. Is it a year? No.
Yeah, year-old.
Today is exactly
the year.
That's not possible.
It is, though. That's how time works.
No, it was like 2 months ago. Are you kidding me?
2 months ago?
It feels like it went like that. Oh
my dear Ray, you have no idea what's possible.
No.
Yeah. But Visions was amazing. I am incredibly excited for season 2. Incredibly excited for Tales of the Jedi. Love when Star Wars is animated. This is amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited to see how mad people get about it, because I think it's going to frustrate people that I hope it frustrates. In
other news, Ho's mad. Anyway, on that note, I am going to say that I am really, really looking forward to let's see, what am I looking forward to? Just seeing how it all these different factions come together. And I think that we're in for a really, really, really special treat. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap the show for tonight. I want to thank our wonderful, wonderful guest, Regan. Thank you so much for, as always, for coming on and being a wonderful friend and a wonderful, wonderful. You bring a lot to the conversation. I always appreciate you coming on and spending your time with us. And for your amazing introductions. So there she is. Look at her. Sienna.
She's a
Sienna.
Muppet. She's a Muppet. She's not even a dog.
Hello, Trey.
Are you a
Hello,
Muppet?
Trey.
What do you have to say about that?
Trey.
She's not. She doesn't say it a lot.
She doesn't say it. That's good. That's good. Regan, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Regaba on Twitter. Don't be weird about it. And I am Oysters on the Half Shirt on Instagram because I did not have the forethought to make all of my social media contiguous. And I am Newt Nute Regan like pew pew on TikTok, where you can see me doing just a lot of complaining. But that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Trey, where can they find you, buddy?
You can find me on Twitter at the Trainator. Reagan was just on my film podcast,
heck yeah.
Mile High Cinema. That was posted yesterday. We talked about basically the concept of the episode was, has Disney Star Wars been a success? And we kind of talked about that, talked about our then anticipation for for Andor. We hadn't seen the episodes yet, but that's out on Spotify, Apple, everything. Basically everywhere you can find podcasts. Let's see, that's my movie podcast, my Twitter. Yeah, I think that's it. But it was a really fun conversation. If you are watching this, you obviously like Star Wars. And I think Reagan and I had a pretty good time kind of discussing like what we've liked in this era, what we haven't, our anticipation for Andor, and sort of kind of just looking back at the 10 years ago when Disney bought Star Wars, and just how things have changed since then. So
I got
you can also follow me on Twitter to find pictures of this dog, Sienna.
Oh, this baby.
Sienna, baby. Awesome. Well, you guys can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. If you're not already, follow us on our official Twitter, Skywalking TL. This has been the Andor, the Merrier. And as always, Godspeed, Rebels. Oh,
Godspeed.
go Cats. Cats by 90. Saturday. We gonna win. We going. We out here.